Welcome to Girl Time Rush. It's the only pod we cast, so we've got to do it. We are just recording our first episode. We should introduce ourselves, probably. I'm Haleigh. I really like Big Time Rush, and I like talking about it.
Hi, I'm Maggie. In 2011, I made a t-shirt that said Henderson on the back of it.
Hi, I'm Ashton. I think I like Big Time Rush a normal amount.
We have just separately watched the first episode, Big Time Audition.
Which is disappointingly not called Big Time Pilot, which
I really thought that it was until I clicked on the video.
I've been calling it that.
But we have not talked about it, and we're going to do that here, now, for you.
I don't know if this is necessary. If you're not familiar with Big Time Rush, it was a Nickelodeon TV show / boy band from 2009 to 2013, and no one has really talked about it in a while, but we're having a great time, so.
Someone has to talk about this.
And the fact that there's no podcast for them is just frankly upsetting, so we decided we had to do it.
Okay, a Big Time Audition, the pilot episode, is basically their origin story to how they become a boy band.
It was directed by Savage Steve Holland and written by Scott Fellows.
And it aired on November 28th, 2009.
Wow, you guys got some facts here.
So it's 11 years old, almost.
Almost. The very first audio that we hear in the entire show is the very famous... Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, usually it takes them a couple minutes to, get into enough trouble to warrant that, but no, they just really jump right in, and then they do the whole, I bet you wondered how we got into this mess.
I was thinking that the whole time.
Right, so it opens with them running from a crowd of girls, and then...
And you're like, oh, it's because they're a boy band, and they're famous, and...
They're not.
Nope.
Yeah, so Kendall peer pressures the rest of them into turning on the sprinklers onto the girls' field hockey team. I'm wondering if they chose field hockey because they think that it's the opposite of hockey, so they're rivals.
That's true. It's like, haha, you can't do this to us because we're on ice.
You're on a field.
Is field hockey a winter sport?
No.
Because
it is winter, isn't it?
Yeah, it's winter.
Minnesota. Maybe it's always like that.
They threw fake snow all over the set, so it is supposed to be winter.
Wait, but why would the janitor put on the sprinklers in the winter where it froze his latte, so it frees the pipes? So there's
and then
a janitor.
And then at the end of the episode, they don't want to go back because they check the weather, and it's -8 in Minnesota. Just
it's only been 3 days.
They don't live in a specific city. They just live in Minnesota.
They live in this town.
It's a big, ubiquitous.
Another thing I noted about this Soaking girls field hockey team, they really managed to do it in a way that was in no way sexual, which is great. Because a teenage boy being like, let's turn on the sprinkler on these girls could have been gross, but I don't know, they just made it so dumb.
They do love pranks.
Well, in this scene, it's the first time we hear Logan say, I gotta get new friends, because he genuinely didn't want to do this, because he knew they get in trouble, but Kendall's still like, yeah, do this.
It's because he's the bad boy.
Kendall's peer pressuring you into breaking rules and putting you in literal bodily harm. You knew that this would happen.
That being said, they don't look like they got beat up by a bunch of girls with sticks later on. They just kind of look like they fell down a little bit.
Well, because Logan's shirt is ripped.
Right, a couple ripped clothes, but no bruises or anything. They really didn't suffer bodily harm. They're dancing nothing later.
What I was saying earlier, I don't think field hockey and hockey are the same season in sports, so I don't know why the girls' field hockey team was there.
They were
to be
ready.
Soaked.
They were preparing.
Unless they were...
Maybe they just love field hockey so much that hey, scrimmage, let's just play around. They always
I was thinking, since it's Minnesota, it's just hockey all the time. Kendall won't let them stop playing hockey. And they'll apparently do whatever he wants. So.
There's no other sport, it's just hockey and field hockey.
Yeah.
Sometimes, when there's not enough snow.
Maybe they're trying to turn it into real hockey, because it's really cold, so if they put water on the fields... So after the chase, they end up cornered in the alley, which is right before they get beat up.
Oh, they also jump into a dumpster, which is very classic.
They do.
Important for Big Time Rush.
And then Carlos has the dumpster sandwich, which is... They do so much early, establishing the character stuff that's really delightful. So it's wow, Carlos is a weird, silly guy who'll do gross stuff. But
did stress me out. I'm afraid he's gonna die from the dumpster sandwich, and he doesn't.
I think the concussions in general are more of the danger.
Yeah.
When they do get attacked by the girls, he gives his helmet to James because they have to protect the face.
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't have a helmet for that. Does he have a weak head? Is that why he wears the helmet? It's too early to get into that.
It's just his thing.
Everyone needs a thing.
Gustavo and Kelly arriving in Minnesota and his
True.
latte freezes. And she tells him where they are, and he goes, "What's up, Minnesota?" But I thought he was going to say, "What's a Minnesota?"
I have that written down.
Like, what is it? Because I genuinely believe he did not know what Minnesota was before he got there. And then he litters.
I have what's a Minnesota and then Gustavo litters written down. We have someone sing.
Nice. No, not in sync. That's
Sorry,
the
wrong
wrong
band.
boy band.
Yeah, the next scene we see, they're sitting in Kendall's
Yeah.
living room.
Yeah, we only had one living room set.
Okay, cool. They're watching the Pussycat Dolls do their thing. And James has the line, "The Pussycat Dolls make the pain go away."
That's Kendall. Kendall says that.
Yeah.
And
Does
James says
he?
he's gonna marry Nicole Scherzinger.
That's the
Wow.
heading.
I wrote James in my notes, so that sucks.
I
Hey, look, back in the day I was a Logan fan. I didn't know who the rest of them were.
All I could focus on in that scene, because there were a lot of bad things in that scene that I didn't want to focus on, so I focused on the thing that was the least bad for me, which is that James is dressed like a waiter this entire time. Like a fancy waiter.
I mean, that's what people do when they're trying to make it in Hollywood, right?
Yeah.
The Raiders.
I do really love their 4 hockey players from Minnesota look, and I wish that could like bleed into the rest of the show a little more because
No,
like
they
the
immediately
fingerless
lose
gloves. I really did like the vibe in the living room. Just it felt like 4 dudes hanging out.
Yeah.
So then the Pussycat Dolls, did they get interrupted by the news broadcast? Is that what
Yeah, it
happened?
fades out a little bit. So it,
Maybe. James, I think, is like, "I want to be famous like the Pussycat Dolls," and then he does that bad
butt shaking?
dance on the
Yeah.
coffee table. And Carlos tackles him, and I've
And
never
after
been
Logan
more
smacks his
relieved
butt.
in
Yeah.
my life.
but again, very authentic
So-
teenage boys.
I guess. It's weird. The whole thing sort of functions in like a society where toxic masculinity only really exists when the plot calls for it. So that happens, and then the news guy is like, "Do you want to be famous?" And then James pokes his head back up from behind the couch and is like, "Yes!" And then they talk about Gustavo's presence.
The guy on TV talks about how he's famous for like all these different bands, and then he says he's even more famous for his quote in Rolling Stone when he said, "I could turn a dog into a pop star." Imagine just like saying some shit like that in an interview, and then that's just what you're known for. Like that's what he's most famous for. That must have been a meme, right? Like there's no other reason it
Yeah.
would have been that pop star.
Yeah, that seems like a very 2009 type of meme. I think now it would have been, people would have memed on his song titles, which we'll get to.
Yes. So
I do love how much they support James.
No, it's very cute.
Yeah.
Very wholesome.
They find out sign-ups are open till 5, and it's almost 5, so they panic and they all call their moms, and none of them answer.
They're probably at work or driving from work.
Yeah, probably.
Do the other 3 have parents?
Yes.
Yeah, we meet all their moms at least.
Okay.
And we meet James's dad.
Carlos is dead too.
So then Carlos gets a call back on his phone, and they're all flipping out. They're like, "Yes, mom's calling back. We can get there." So he's like, "Hello? Yes. Yes, get here as fast as you can." So they're like, "Yeah, your mom's coming." And he goes, "No, but a nice lady sending her crew over to give us a free estimate on aluminum siding." This is what really sends James over the edge, because he cackles him over the couch.
It happened to him first. I mean,
It's just the little things that do send them over the edge into fighting are...
that's true.
I think they just have a lot of pent-up rage because they're teenagers and don't know what to do with it. And so they look for any excuse.
Right, like I personally thought it was kind of cute how excited Carlos was about aluminum siding.
Yeah.
Carlos has done nothing wrong, and that is a stance I will not change. That is just the tone of this podcast.
I think we might need to, for certain things, I'm sure he's done.
That's only when he's concussed.
Okay, sure, yeah, let's go with that. When they pop up from behind the couch, so they're fighting, right? And then they pop up, and then James is about to hit Carlos with a lamp over the head. So, like, another concussion that they saved.
But he's got the helmet.
True. But Carlos, so James is holding a lamp. Carlos is holding an old-fashioned egg beater with a hand crank.
Mrs. Knight has an eclectic taste.
It's just, that was just behind the couch, I guess. It's for
I had the
emergencies.
subtitles on, and at one point it said, like, chicken clucking. Because it's a Scott Fellows show, and the sound effects.
Scott.
The sound effects were still toned down from the rest of the show. Like, they did this episode and, like, had some, but they're like, nah, not wild enough.
I was thinking that too. Like, why does this feel so weird? It's because there's not enough sound effects, and they
everything's
don't
so quiet.
they don't like fall in or out of scene.
You mean where they, like, pop up or, like,
Yeah.
they faint out of the picture? Yeah.
Yeah, that didn't happen at all. They just tackle each other over couches.
The way that they decide to get to these auditions is to essentially kidnap their elderly neighbor.
No, they ask her, and she says sure.
Because they promised to shovel their driveway for the rest of the winter.
That's what I was getting at. They're not going to do that because they immediately moved to Los Angeles.
And they don't know that. They intend to follow through.
Cannot remotely shovel this woman's driveway.
Yeah, they're all, like, yelling stuff. So they're literally carrying her to the car because she, like, can't really walk.
Someone,
Do you have her purse? Do you have her cane? I don't want to break her!
Yeah, someone.
I wish I could tell who said that. but-
Carlos said I don't want to break her. I know that.
Oh, that
Yes.
tracks.
Yeah. Okay, the next scene we see, it's, I say everyone, just random Minnesota people, I guess, auditioning for Gustavo.
Classic montage.
Right, I was gonna say, it's very akin to that scene in High School Musical 1, but this one goes way longer, and then Gustavo says way meaner things.
He calls a rocket launcher.
I think my
He
favorite
just
one
has
was
that.
I love the guy with the drumsticks. I love life more than anyone. Do, do, do.
My favorite one was, listen here, sister, that's the worst singing I've ever heard in my life! And then it cuts to the stage, and it's like a nun in full habit. That one will never get old.
He sends this really, like, disheveled guy away without letting him sing. And I was like, that guy is better than all 4 Big Time Rush guys. I guarantee it.
But then there wouldn't have been a show, so.
And he probably wouldn't have wrought half of the havoc on the Palm Woods that they did.
Kelly deserves a lot of raises.
She deserves
Yeah.
so much.
Like, she has to be paid a lot, right?
No,
Like, there's no other reason.
I think she is. When Gustavo breaks the teacup and she immediately gets out some cash to reimburse them, she gets out like $40. Like, that's how much she thinks a teacup costs. Which is it's one banana, Michael. How much could it cost? $10.
I mean, she also recognizes that there's a lot of emotional toll. She's
Exactly.
like, I'm just gonna.
She knows what it's like to have an emotional
Yeah.
toll taken on her by Gustavo.
And Kendall does bring up the teacup again later, so it seems to have struck a nerve.
That's where we find out he has 29 platinum records, and I just want to bring up again, he's still most famous for his quote about turning a dog into a pop star, like in a hypothetical sense.
Can you name a record producer right now? Just,
No. Oh,
Which I
Billie
guess-
Eilish's brother.
no one knows.
I know how music.
But, like, yeah, I think it makes sense that people would know him more for his dumb meme quote than his songs.
I like how much ice there is on the ground when they're trying to run into the audition.
I'm sure you guys didn't miss this one, how they just leave the car in the middle of the street.
Well, I think that the lady was in the car. Because she didn't run in with them. So she was in the car.
So they must have gone back for her. They had to
Right,
literally carry her.
they must have gone back for her, but they wanted to make sure they signed up for it. So she was there in the car. They were standing. It was fine because she was there. It's not illegal.
I don't know how the laws in Minnesota are with driving. Does she have a license? Did they check?
I think they just said, we need an adult.
Yeah, but you need an adult
Who needs
with
a
a
license?
valid license.
I mean, she probably had one at one point.
I mean,
don't know if it's still
She
good.
wouldn't- unless she got into like an accident or something, she wouldn't have had it taken away. She seems like the kind of woman
But it
who
would
would just
expire.
I don't know why I feel the need to vet this woman. I should
I trust her
leave her
implicitly.
alone.
I know when they were signing up, I'm pretty sure Carlos started singing Baby.
Yeah, I also heard that. I was like, oh, it's
Justin
that.
Bieber?
Yeah.
That's what that
Because
was?
he went, oh, whoa.
That's in Baby?
That's the beginning of
That's
Baby.
a bit. Oh my god, I wish I forgot Baby. I'm so jealous.
Look, the
of
only...
you.
I've listened to Big Time Rush so much over the past
well,
several weeks. That's
they-
all I know.
They keep calling Logan the genius, and like he calls himself that. I know it's only the first episode. He has yet to
Do
display.
something smart.
They say he's a genius, and then he immediately deflects from it, and then he's like, "No, wait, I am. No, I'm not." Yes, I am. No, I'm not. Yes,
He knows
I am.
all those facts and stats and stuff. Like, he's the definition of book smart.
He does this, like, nonsense math about their odds of not surviving the girls' field hockey team.
I didn't like when Kelly called Kendall tall, blonde, and eyebrows.
Specifically, she said, "You, tall, blonde, and eyebrows. Do you want your dream to come true today?" And that's just bad.
Yeah, I don't like it when you say it like that. I already didn't like it. I like it less now.
Kelly, as she calls herself, desperate talent scout, so she has them all audition, even though none of them want to, except Jean. She said, "Logan, you got a cute smile," and Justin Timberlake made a lot of money.
$44 million.
Thank you.
Also, there's a lot of people still there.
Yeah.
Like, there are a lot of people waiting there with stickers on.
Well, sign-ups were until 5.
Right, but then she says that 410 is next.
Oh.
810.
Whatever number. They're next.
Numbers.
Numbers mean literally nothing to me.
She's the Logan of the pod. I think my theory right now is that it's just that he really wants to be a doctor, and you have to be smart to go to medical school, and they're all just really supportive friends, so they all just keep calling him the genius, validating his hopes and
Yeah,
dreams.
because they do validate. What is Carlos's dream?
To become a superhero. We find that out at the end of season 1.
And they do support that in their own way.
Yeah, so James was supposed to go in first, but he keeps switching his number with everyone else's because he's nervous and the other guys have to go in. So Logan's first. They're like, "Logan, you don't sing. What are you gonna do?" And then Logan goes,
Luckily, I'm a genius. I'll think of something.
"Kendall, beatbox." Got
Which
it.
was the worst idea ever.
But the way this is a thing that's bothered me for 10 years. He says Kendall in that scene.
He's got a little bit of an accent. I can't quite place it because
Yeah.
I wasn't good at linguistics.
He usually doesn't say Kendall.
He had this weird thing going on through all those lines. Like, luckily, I'm a genius. I'll think of something. Like,
He was nervous.
I'm a genius is one word.
That was Logan the character. He's a great actor in real life.
I'm not saying anything about Logan. Like, it was a very strange inflection that followed through to him saying Kindle.
So Logan goes up there first. He beatboxes. Gustavo, his response is to say, "Waka chicka, waka chicka, waka chicka, stop."
Stop it forever.
He says "stop it forever" so many times.
It's so good, and I'm
It's
so
a
mad
very
it
good
doesn't
line.
carry on through the rest of the show. Because he's
Does
like
it?
very Ashton. No, he just like screams, and there's more sound effects. There's no more of the like, "Stop, never do that again."
He's so calm.
Gustavo's screaming at Logan like a lot. Like when Logan walks out, Gustavo's still screaming. Logan is shaking on the verge of tears.
Poor
And he's-
little boy. He's a
I know.
little teenage
So
boy.
he's like, "Don't go in there. He's terrible."
He's Satan.
He's Satan in Buckeye sunglasses. So he sits down in the chair and curls up and is, again, like, about to cry. So Carlos, he's supposed to go up next. So it shows him, like, look over to Logan, and they're like, "Carlos, you're up." And that's when he gets...
Well, because James switches the stickers again.
Right.
It's a dumb joke audition, which is that he ends up farting into the microphone. But before that, he was just going, "Whoo."
Carlos has done nothing wrong ever.
And that was so much funnier to me. I thought I wanted him to just keep doing that. Just like a horrible, weird owl until he got dragged off stage by like a giant cane like they do in cartoons. And then Gustavo physically tries to climb over the table and attack him. And the subtitles for the noise that Gustavo makes was Huehh. I don't even know how you'd say it in real life. No.
So, on the subject... Right, so the fart is obviously like a dumb joke audition. But it hit me different this time, not gonna lie. So, yeah, it's... The whole thing is like, haha, he's a dumb, silly guy who ate a dumpster sandwich. But that look he gives Logan right before he goes in, he like sees like his friend like suffering. And then he goes in, I think it was a big fuck you to Gustavo.
Oh, yeah, he was like, I do not respect this
completely.
man. I need to know how little I respect him because of what he just did. Yeah, absolutely.
Because I always like knew it was like kind of like that, but now it really hit me. I'm like, it's exactly what it was.
Nice.
He didn't think it was funny. He just
He was taking a stand. He's just
Yeah.
he's so supportive. He's the most supportive. They're all supportive boys, but he's the most supportive boy. All he cares about is defending it. He's the defender.
He
You know,
he will put himself in so much danger.
Yeah, like he's the goalie. He's the defender.
Is he the goalie? He
And
didn't have
that's
a
why
goalie
he has
helmet
the-
earlier.
Yeah, obviously we're thinking way too much into this show. Then it should not be thought into this much. That is his role to his core. I didn't realize until 2 months ago how much of a Carlos fan I am.
Yeah, no, I was right there with you. Okay, overall in the show, when we talk about these characters, we're like most of the time, 99% of the time, just talking about the characters. So if we say shitty things, it's like we're not trying to... Except for Carlos, because when we say good things about Carlos, it absolutely applies to real Carlos, because I also love him, so just for the record.
Yeah, we will say the real boys' last names, I guess, if we have
Yeah.
to. Like Henderson.
Now it's Kendall's turn. No, it's
No,
James's
it's
turn
James's
again, but he tried to switch it. Kendall won't let him because opportunities like this come once in a lifetime. So grab onto that dream and go big time.
I don't know what big time means.
It's just Kendall's catchphrase.
So my theory about the band name Big Time Rush, the big time part especially, theory is that the other boys came up with it to clown on Kendall, and he either didn't notice or didn't care because he likes the phrase so much.
I was reading the Wikipedia page and I was in like the production tab
I'm so excited.
and it said that the show did not have a title up until August of 2009. And this came out in November. So they were just...
I will talk about the subject more later, but the unaired pilot, did that band not have a name in the unaired pilot? Did they
I don't
just
know,
not
I
name
haven't-
their group?
I mean, they didn't name the band until like the last couple of
That's-
scenes.
That is true. Okay, so now it's James's turn. Finally, he sings Smokey Robinson.
People say I'm like the
Yeah, that's him.
I've been working real hard at my James impersonation.
I appreciate it so much. I'm like doing some like deep research into the Logan because I want to learn how to do that.
I don't know how to boil down Logan to his essentials, and that's bothering me so much.
Over the course of this podcast, you will learn along with us. So as James is singing, you see that the other boys and Mrs. Majikowski, so they must have
That's
gone
her
and
name.
gotten her at some point. They like pop up from behind some of the seats because they want to watch him do good.
It's very cute.
And then Gustavo ruins the cute moment. You think he might be nicer because he's very quiet. He's just like, stop.
He's just tired.
Yeah.
He wasted all his energy yelling, "Hua."
Because now he just says that James has no talent, and that's like all he really had in him anymore, I think. That's the line that makes Kendall flip the fuck out. Not when Logan almost like got eviscerated.
Yeah,
It's when Gustavo tells James he has no talent. He runs out from behind the seats and he starts screaming at him. He goes, "You haven't had a hit in 10 years." And Gustavo responds, "Hey, Girl to My Heart by Boyquake was a hit 9 years ago."
Which is not a good comeback.
It's still funny. It's still so funny.
I feel like though, if this was like James's dream,
Yeah.
I feel
It
like
wasn't Logan's dream.
if Logan like got kicked out of medical school for being a bad doctor, I feel like Kendall would react
Right. If
more
somebody's
like this. And then if James got kicked out of med school, he'd just be like,
Yeah, of course you got kicked out of med school. You don't want to be a doctor. Plus,
Oh.
he did set Logan up for failure by suggesting he beatbox, and I think he knew that.
oh, another thing about Logan's audition is that when he's walking out all sadly and cutely, like he wants to die, you can hear Gustavo yell, "Get back here! I have bad words that I want you." I don't know why he was holding out for so long. It's like, wait, you left before I could say fuck.
Kendall, he gets really mad and protective of his friends, and when that happens, he jumps on a table and starts aggressively singing 90s pop hits.
I mean, same.
He sings Gustavo's bad song at him.
I don't know what that was supposed to accomplish.
It's nothing?
Well, he like,
Because then he says, heart, 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 and like, I don't really know. He does something with his hands.
it's a dance move that I think they later have to learn. His entire on top of the table performance, I was like, wait, is that the stuff that they learn from Mr. X later? The cross-leg spin pose.
Yeah. I'm very excited to get to this next point, and it's the giant turd song. It's Genesis.
Oh, you're such a
Oh yeah,
I have have a theory, because I've seen all of the giant turds, I think.
I don't like it when you say that.
It's good. I know that sounds weird, but it is. It's really good. And I have this theory that they do not ever perform it in the same key twice. Because I think in this episode maybe it's all the same key, but I've heard other occasions and they definitely do it not in that key. So it's just like a horrible eldritch song.
I do want to say, I mean, this is jumping ahead a little bit, but when they perform it by the pool and James riffs in it, that I think that is when it is solidified as the quintessential Big Time Rush song. Like the O is very important to Big Time Rush, and yeah, and then also
And then, like, you mean their song, oh yeah?
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of O's, there's a lot of yeahs. It doesn't have the word girl in it. I think it's the only thing that separates it from a lot of other Big Time Rush songs, which is wild because it's 10 seconds long.
After that performance, Kelly calls security on Kendall. He tries to physically fight the security guards.
Right, it's like, Kendall, what are you doing?
And then
He has a lot of teenage boy aggression.
Carlos really wants to get in there, but he's like, wait, am I prepared to face the consequences? And he asks Logan, as if he will know this. Like, he has knowledge of the legal system.
I'm sure he has needed to look this up because of the shenanigans these boys get into.
Yeah. So he's like, I wish I'd written it down. He's like,
juvenile, prior for mooning.
Yeah.
I'd say 20 hours of community service.
Carlos is just like, I can live with that. Puts the helmet on and then jumps on one of the security guards.
And then James, just quiet. You can see him like accepting what's happening. Just gently put the microphone back in the stand, pop it into place, and then spread his arms and leap into the fray.
Land on top of a security guard. Yeah, then Logan, he's still there with Mrs. Magikowski, who does his whole, I gotta get new friends, shrug, run in. Immediately, just a security guard just like grabs him and holds him back with one arm as he's actually fighting.
And then Mrs. Magikowski also starts beating a security guard with her cane.
She might be my
favorite. She's the best.
I love her.
She's never felt so alive.
Kendall just is so loyal to his friends that these security guards grab him and they're just trying to bring him out of the room. He is just fighting so hard. Like, he almost assaulted a man. So you'd think he'd just like chill out and find his chill. He has none.
So the cops bring them all to Kendall's house for some reason. I really don't.
She was probably the only mom they could get in touch with, or maybe Mrs. Magikowski said something.
I don't think
they
wouldn't. Oh, this boy's parents aren't home, so we'll just take him to the other boy's house instead of like we'll just keep him in custody or something.
They probably knew that Mrs. Knight would be the most chill about it, so they pretended they all lived there.
Yeah, it does. The entire show does sort of have a vibe where it's just like Kendall and his mom and sister and their 3 foster brothers.
So when they show up on the doorstep, Kendall's mom opens the door. 4 boys and Mrs. Magikowski are standing there with all the
they
police
could have at
behind
least
them.
taken Mrs. Magikowski home to her house.
She probably offered to put in a good word for the boys.
So Kendall goes, Mom, remember that time I saved you from choking? Wow, that was close. And I love you. And it works.
She's so chill about this.
She's very chill.
They just explain, they're like, yeah, he was really mean. And then there was a tiny fight and no one got hurt. And she's like, okay, who wants cookies?
I mean,
And tea.
also, they do sing the turd song one more time before this.
Yeah.
They do, because
They sing it to Katie,
Katie goes, okay, well, will you at least sing the Giant Turd song? Can I at least hear this masterpiece that you've written? The first time the other boys had heard it was in that theater. They were like, oh, wow, never heard that one before.
Because it's that moment when, like, a fictional singing group sings together for the first time, and you can see them all like, oh, yeah, this sounds really good. And,
Yeah,
like,
that was really cute.
I love that moment.
The first thing I wrote for this section is Katie's wearing the most 2009 shirt of all time. It's like purple. The only thing I know about it is that it's purple, but
there's like white stripes,
so
right?
2009. Yeah, I think it's got like white stripes on the arms. It might be one of those weird where it looks like it's a long sleeve under a short sleeve, but it's really just one shirt. It's made to look like that.
The doorbell rings and they're singing the Turd song, having a great time. They go to get the door and it's Gustavo.
And he ruins their great time.
He's wearing a great coat. I love his coat.
So, and they're all sitting around drinking tea in the living room as they get down to business. And Gustavo's like, so Kendall, you want to go to LA and record some demos? And Kendall just goes, no. And at that point, Carlos laughs like really, really hard, and it's like awkward because no one else laughed. And I think it was supposed to be another like, oh, this boy's like silly and doesn't understand like social stuff. But I think it's another really great like fuck you to Gustavo because he really appreciated what Kendall had done there. So again, Carlos has never done anything wrong in his life.
And then Gustavo breaks Kendall's mom's teacup.
And the planter outside.
And Kelly just leaves them a wad of cash to cover all of it. It's very quiet. I only caught it because of the subtitles. You can hear Gustavo threaten to destroy the entire state of Minnesota, which he definitely only learned about that night.
Okay, Katie gets really mad at Kendall. She's like, what are you doing? You could have moved to LA and become famous. I could have gone to LA too. And then before she storms out of the room, she goes, I'm taking a 20. And she grabs the 20 off the wad of cash.
She's a very good character.
Okay, next scene. Parking lot of the grocery store in which Kendall works.
I wrote, who the fuck gave them access to shopping carts heading.
That's Kendall's job, is the shopping carts, so he gave them to them.
I wrote, these boys are menaces.
They're having a conversation about the previous night. Well, Kendall is supposed to be returning shopping carts to the designated
corral.
Yeah. So they are trying to put all of these carts back, but they're doing it while having like a spirited discussion. They all do very bad jobs.
I mean, it is very high school kids TV show.
No, it's very real in a way that's not comfortable for me.
I know. I was like, this feels like a different show.
Logan goes first, and he absolutely just dents the shit out of someone's car.
He almost hits a person too.
Yeah, and then James knocked over a human person and spilled their groceries everywhere and thought sorry would suffice.
But the guy just gets back up and gives them a horrified look as he tries to gather his groceries and gets away as quickly as possible.
I mean, that's what I would do, but that's not what, like, someone with self-respect should do.
They're menaces. These boys have been a menace on this small town in Minnesota for too long.
So as this is happening, real quick, their conversation is along the lines of, I'm pretty sure Logan's line is, so I did the math on this situation, and you're an idiot. And then his next line is, he's like, okay, he like takes out a pretend calculator. But then he goes, carry the 2, nope, still an idiot.
What if the other 3 just don't know how to do math?
I mean, me.
And so they just accept. They're like, that must be what math is.
Also in the scene is where we get the third opportunities like this come once in a lifetime, except this one's from James. Unless I wrote down the wrong name again, but I'm pretty sure it was actually James.
No, it was.
Now every time I see the word James in my notes, I'm gonna assume it's just another guy.
I'm pretty sure it's like he knew, like, hey, this line worked on us. I'm gonna borrow a line from Kendall's playbook since he's stealing my dream.
Kendall's like, I don't want to go to LA with that jerk. I want to stay here with you jerks and play hockey. They're arguing with Kendall about whether he should go there, and he's like, I don't want to. And then they're like, please. And he's like, no. And then Carlos is like, if I make this, you have to go. And then he takes the cart and he goes back really far with it, like he too is gonna shove it into the corral, which technically he does, but he shoves it while running, and then he jumps inside of it
while screaming.
And then he gets hit by a car.
Like immediately.
And the other 3 are just kind of like, yikes.
Yeah, concussion, because then he goes, I just want what's best for you, man. And Logan's like, I'm not Kendall.
Got hit by a car, man.
And then he faints. So is he okay?
No, he's not. He's concussed, and that
is this the first concussion of the episode? They've already done some shit.
Right, but he wasn't concussed before because this is the only time this has happened specifically. I'm sure that it didn't help earlier. I'm sure it all kind of compounded. His head didn't really heal, and
There's
then he
no way he got out of this one scot-free. That's a real car.
But I think that can really explain away any inconsistencies in his character. Is that he's just always a little concussed
from protecting his friends.
Yes, because
he was trying to protect Kendall's welfare, so that's why he got hit by a car.
So then
they convinced Kendall to call Gustavo,
and he shows up with his coat
in the parking lot. In the grocery store parking lot is where they have this it feels like a standoff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of standoffs in this episode.
But they're all between Gustavo and Kendall, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's setting up the main conflict of the show. But he's gonna go, but only if Gustavo brings his buds and makes them into a singing group.
I'm so glad you said it that way.
I would like
It
to
kills
posit a theory. He didn't really want to do it still, but he just took note of all of the carnage that his friends brought upon this grocery store and was like, I'm gonna get fired. I will have no income. This could make me many incomes.
He's like, we could really drive Gustavo crazy
Yeah.
if it's all four of us. We can
really
do
what he
some shit. Yeah.
It's all about revenge.
And my mom can finally touch a palm tree.
All she's ever wanted, apparently.
Every time I have touched a palm tree in my life since I saw that, I think about Kendall's mom.
So against all odds, Gustavo agrees. He yells a bunch.
I know at one point he goes, well, but it's the way he says it sounds like well.
Unless you guys have more to say about the parking lot, we can move on to their arrival.
It's much less icy than the parking lot in front of the Paramount studio.
They go to LA.
We get
They
a fun
want
montage.
to.
Yeah, they're playing Famous. As you see the montage, he had just a plane in the sky, and then
It's
they're in the
definitely
back
Southwest.
of the car. Yeah, voguing like you said. Yeah.
the back of the car montage is really good.
Famous fucking rules, but there is a line that confused me a lot, which is, do you want to take a little bite of the fake machine?
It's a horrible line. I don't understand
I've
it.
never bitten a piece of machinery.
Right.
This is the first time we hear a song that's them singing. I know chronologically it doesn't make sense because they're not a band yet or whatever, but it's not the big deal because it's a TV show. But before this, we had just heard like the instrumental of Famous, but like a version with a lot of brass.
Yeah.
And I do miss that one because now we hear the voices, which is great. I love them, but I'm also like, you haven't earned this yet.
Well, I mean, they did sing the turn song.
Yes.
When they're voguing in the back of that limo, I'm just assuming that they were stuck on the 405 trying to get to... They never say exactly where the Palmwoods is, but they were definitely on that freeway for longer than any of them is used to. So then they get to the Palmwoods, which I don't know if places like this exist in real life, because I've never been a famous child. Doesn't seem very plausible. I'm
It's like a
willing
hotel,
to be
but
proven wrong,
with
but
apartments instead, right? Like
Yeah.
it's the vibe. But yeah, that's where Kendall's mom finally touches a palm tree, and Kelly stops and looks at her, and she goes, "I always wanted to touch a palm tree."
first palm tree I've ever touched.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And then
yeah.
she hugs Kendall, and it's cute.
It's very sweet.
And then they just kind of move on. Kelly's like, okay.
I mean, they don't have to do much to establish who Mrs. Knight is, but they do a good job of establishing who she is very quickly.
Agreed.
They see this very frazzled woman with her 8-year-old son, and she's dragging him to an audition, and he's like, I don't want to go to an audition. I want to be a child. And it just feels like this horrible meta commentary, because it is a children's show about children playing children.
Okay,
I mean,
but they're grown adults.
yeah, that's James
though-
is very much a grown adult.
It's wild because the characters and the way that they act is so teenage boy, but they are very much adults in their 20s.
About that scene, I just want to say, when they see him, Kendall goes, "Hey, look, it's that kid from the juice box commercials," and then he's just screaming, "I want my childhood back!" And so that's Tyler.
That's his whole personality.
So Kelly mentions that this venue has a pool, and they just ditch her immediately to go find this pool.
Pool time rush.
And then they're laying in those lounge chairs by the side of the pool. You know, they rolled up their Minnesota pant legs and
But
whatever.
Logan didn't, and that bothers me more than anything.
See, Kendall rolled up his pant legs to not take off his giant boots. So they're learning. It's a learning curve.
They don't.
They don't know what California is.
So here we have a really bad line where one of them says, "We are so not in Minnesota anymore," and Logan goes, "Minnie who now?"
So this girl in a fancy dress shows up and
Slaps Kendall. How could you?
After she slaps him and calls him Troy because she's practicing for an audition, but it just made me think of High School Musical. She like stalks off, and you can see how incredibly fake the sky is. It's just like a painted white wall with some palm tree silhouettes.
God, it hurts my eyes to look at.
Yeah.
Isn't that when Tyler pops out of the garbage can and goes, and that's Camille?
So you've met Camille.
And he
She's
kind of
not
gives
that
them
close.
the whole tour of the Pondwoods from the garbage can that he popped out of hiding from his mom.
Very
so he
good
goes,
character.
that's Guitar Dude, who has
He's
sunglasses.
a songwriter.
Oh, yeah.
Which, no offense to Guitar Dude, but how does he afford to be here?
I don't think we learned this in the pilot. I think we'd learn this later. But we do know that when he moved there, he was a classical cellist.
Right, but he's not anymore. What is he doing, and how is he still at the Palmwoods?
He's
Maybe
squatting.
he made a lot of money
Squatting,
as
just
a
tells us.
classical cellist. Yeah, because like he definitely used money for weed too. So I don't really know where he's gonna
And
go.
everyone just loves him and they let him stay.
Honestly, probably.
So he makes a song out of the phrase "What's up," which is cute, but it just gave me flashbacks to Gustavo not knowing what Minnesota was. But that's a me problem, not a Guitar Dude problem.
And then
The dog,
yeah.
Lightning the
Wonder
dog,
Dog.
the Wonder
I
Dog.
specifically didn't write down any notes about Lightning because I don't have any words to talk about him with.
It's just a dog with a hand puppet and
Yeah,
sunglasses.
it doesn't look very good. The puppet.
There's the exact right amount of Lightning the Wonder Dog in the show.
Yeah, from the Uncanny Valley. So then the Jennifers.
They are 3 girls of the same name. Sing, dance, and act. Which I don't think we ever hear them sing in the entire series.
Do we see
So-
them dance
They
or act?
are in the background of a music video once or twice. They do allegedly act.
Before that, they're like, wow, there's 3 Jennifers. And I was looking up the cast in general. Kendall's mom
Yeah,
is
she's-
also named Jennifer.
Yeah, that comes up later. I think. Yeah.
Oh my god, did she join them?
No.
So they all try to ask out the Jennifers. Carlos makes the most valiant attempt. And he's like, do you guys want to go to the movies?
He said
so
nothing
earnest.
wrong.
I know, he's
And
so
they're
genuine.
And they're like, are you starring in the movies? And they're like, no.
As this is happening, so when they first appear, Tyler pulls out like a box fan
Oh, yeah.
and aims it at them so,
So they
that
can walk in the wind, which is very good.
And then they pay him. They are like, if that sounds harsh, so is this town. The first in a long string of people saying this town like it's a pop punk song. And then
They say this town in a lot of their songs too.
and
which
then
is
Kendall is like, we gotta promise that we won't let this town change us.
and then he immediately
And then-
changes
Yep,
into new clothes
it's a fun, silly gag.
and a really good Hawaiian shirt.
So your discussion.
Yes, my discussion question, I was reading the fandom wiki page for this episode, and it claims that the Jennifers are a parody of the Jonas Brothers.
What?
No.
And I wasn't able to parse what there's 3 of them?
That's it?
I don't know, it didn't go any further. It's just like, oh yeah, the Jennifers were a parody of the Jonas Brothers, like in a list of other things. And I'm like, excuse me?
How?
I mean, Nickelodeon had all
They're not sisters.
3 brothers,
Only 2
all
of the
with
Jonas
the same
Brothers can
last
sing.
name.
I don't think I've seen any of them dance. They just kind of stand on stage, right? Also, the Jonas Brothers all don't have the same first name.
No.
They have the same last name because they're brothers.
The Jonases.
They have the same hair
I was-
color. They
I
are
was
the same
reading
race.
TV tropes, and it said that the Jennifers were a reference to the Ashleys from Recess, which
See, that makes
makes
sense.
a little more sense. But
Let's go with that one.
now I want them to be the Jonas Brothers. And that means Kendall's mom is Spinelli.
Yeah.
As soon as they vow not to let the town change them, they are in the pool drinking out of coconuts.
Yeah.
Also, no one at this pool is shirtless, which I personally am really grateful for.
I don't think they're allowed to be shirtless. Oh, no, they are. I've seen too much of James's body.
And then Kelly comes by and is like, hey, it's time to learn how to be a boy band. And they're like, but pool. And she's like, no. And then they're all staring at the Jonas Brothers, the Jennifers. They're like, oh, we can ask them out again. When
It's
we
later.
tried before, they just said later. So that wasn't no, that was just later. And so they try again. And then the Jennifers just immediately throw their smoothies all over them.
That's what finally prompts them to be like, let's go to work.
Kelly just watches this knowing it's gonna happen. Like, they gotta learn sometime. Oh, also, somewhere in there, James did his finger thing.
Oh,
like,
yeah, with
on
the
his
guitar
face.
riff behind it. Yes. So, Griffin is the CEO of RCM CBT Global Net Sanuid Corporation.
They did such a good job of introducing Griffin.
I'm obsessed with this scene.
Gustavo is sitting at a desk that's clearly his, and it's like a big giant metal, lot of drawers, a heavy desk covered in stuff. And Griffin and his associates come in, they bring in a chair for Griffin, and they pick up the desk and they set it in front of Griffin as though it is his desk.
And then they lower Gustavo's chair.
Ultimate power move.
Honestly.
And Gustavo's like, oh yeah, I got this great boy band and we're gonna show you in 3 months. It's gonna be awesome. And Griffin goes, the boy band is dead. Show him the research. And this lady behind him throws this giant book at Gustavo, which hits him in the chest and knocks him off of his chair onto the floor. So that's the research.
I meant to look up when One Direction became a thing, like how soon after this that happened.
Pretty close. Pretty darn close. Because they do talk about One Direction a lot in this show.
Do they?
Yeah.
See, the only association I remember is that One Direction opened for Big Time Rush.
That's the funniest thing.
Yeah. So I know that overlap is like...
Oh my god. Griffin is wrong, but he doesn't know. So he's like, the boy band is dead.
Gustavo's telling him, trust me, we'll have something great in 3 months. And Griffin's like, actually, no. Now you have 3 days. Have fun.
And also, while this is happening, I really want to talk about this.
Okay, good. Please.
Please talk about it.
Griffin is saying that he wants delicious or a tasty, something
Tasty,
weird about the band or performer or whatever, which is awful. And so this guy brings in like a serving tray, but on it is a pair of pants. And Griffin, as he's talking, stands up and removes his pants and then puts on the new pants and says, warm pants. Don't you love a pair of warm pants? Get Gustavo some warm pants. I hate, Griffin on the screen makes my skin crawl. He's such a good character. I hate him.
And then I think he walks out. That's the scene over.
That's it.
That's his exit.
Yeah,
He's the opposite of Carlos. He's done everything wrong.
This has to be where the entire show peaks, right? Like, it's not gonna get better than that scene, which lasts like 2 minutes. Just 2 minutes of desk theft and warm pants.
They don't put the dust back.
No.
Gustavo just has to fix it somehow. It took 2 people to put it there.
Yeah,
and now he's just got this chair he's got to do something with.
and he has to raise his own chair
He's also just got that book of research about
He's
the
not
boy
going to
band.
read it.
to taunt him.
He can use the book, put it on his chair.
So
We have to-
Griffin's walking
we
out of
have
the
to stop.
studio. As he's walking out, the boys are walking in. So that's the
It's a very
fancy
smooth
transition they do there.
Good use of time.
So Kelly's showing the boys around the studio. She shows them, this is a hallway that has all of the posters of Gustavo's previous boy bands on it. And the one I really, really, really want to talk about is Boy Quake, because you get a nice close-up on the poster. I don't know if you guys really zeroed in on this one.
I knew it was coming directly after Boy Quake, and I did not pay attention.
Okay, there's 4 of them. They're dressed like construction workers, except for one of them who's wearing shorts and an EMT vest. It's a white vest that has a little red plus on it. No shirt underneath. On the poster it says 8.0 on the Richter scale. So
That's foreshadowing.
right. So an 8 on the Richter scale is really, really, really bad. I think it destroyed San Francisco once. So I don't really know how that translates to the Richter scale. It sounds pretty big.
And then they see Nicole Scherzinger. She's walking out of the studio, and
Nickelodeon got her.
I don't know
do
how
this.
they got Nicole Scherzinger, because she was relevant at the time. The boys are just like,
Carlos immediately points to James and yells, "He's gonna marry you," which is
he's trying to support his friend's
really,
dream.
no, that's really cute, and it's exactly what I would do.
The most terrifying turn of events, she looks James directly in the eye, puts her hand on her hip, and goes, "Where's my ring?"
He's a child. He's not
A 16-year-old boy.
James Maslow is not a child, but James Diamond is a child.
He can't respond. Kendall tries to swoop in and save the day by saying, "We are recording a demo with Gustavo." And Nicole Scherzinger goes, "Gustavo." Does this really good head tilt, whatever thing. And then Gustavo walks out the door and goes, "Nicole!" And she immediately throws something at him.
She throws a payphone at him. She, like, takes the payphone off of the wall. Like, she knew they were basically obsolete by then and just throws it.
She's
That's
incredible.
the second large object that's been thrown at Gustavo on this day.
Also, backing up a little bit, one time on The Masked Singer, Nicole Scherzinger did say that all of her exes were narcissists, and James Diamond does fit that.
Oh,
so
no.
he did have a shot.
But yeah, she said that they had some creative differences.
And that's all we get of Nicole Scherzinger. She's never
Sadly.
mentioned again.
And then
Rip.
Gustavo tells them that they have 3 days to record this demo for, and I quote, "the CEO of all of our butts."
He didn't want to say that RCMCBT Global Net Sanuide. I don't know if we ever hear Gustavo say that. I can
I don't
only
think
hear
he
it in
knows-
Griffin's voice.
I don't think he knows how to say it. I think
don't think
Griffin's
so
the only one who's ever said it.
Yeah.
And I'm impressed that you know all of it.
I don't like that I do. But anyway, yeah, so they're about to start their boy band boot camp.
And they wear like little army pastiche outfits.
James hates sleeves. And Gustavo has one that just says Commander, something like that.
Something like that. And they literally only...
Combat.
Yeah. They only wear these outfits for the explanation of boot camp, because then they immediately have to change into their dance clothes. The first phase of boy band boot camp is learning how to dance, and they learn this from a gentleman named Mr. X, and every time he says his name, he makes an X with his arms in front of him.
And then there's this sword slashing sound effect.
Yes.
Very good.
He says the word explode, like, directly in Carlos's face. I think he says, like, "I'll make you explode with the dance."
Explode with the dance.
I didn't want to commit to the accent.
Yeah.
So-
What is his accent?
That, I was wondering.
It's just like vaguely
Yeah.
foreign.
Probably from a country that starts with the letter X.
Yeah.
That's where he learned all the swear words.
So he gets in Carlos's face and is like, "I will make you explode with the dance," and Carlos just puts the helmet on. And then he teaches them the cross-leg spin pose, but they're all really bad at it.
Okay, Kendall and James do it correctly and do the exact same thing. Mr. X says Kendall
He is serious but not great, and he is great but not serious.
But also, like, they did the exact same thing.
I know.
What do you mean one of them's great and one of them's not?
He's looking into their souls.
He did track that Carlos lost a pet when he was very young and is still sad.
And he says that Logan is just plain awful.
And Logan's like, yep. So is this where he turns to Gustavo and says they are excruciating and cannot be ready by Friday? And Gustavo tells him, "I'll X double your salary." And he replies, "X done."
Yep.
It feels like the rock bottom episode of SpongeBob. When that's how they have to communicate with him. They're saying X in front of words.
So then there's a montage of them trying to dance, which I think lasted about 9 years, maybe.
At one point, they do single ladies.
Yeah.
I do want to say, in the boys' defense, it seems that Mr. X teaching them to dance is just him doing that one spin pose move over and over again and getting increasingly agitated when they don't do it.
Right, and they're also so close to each other. Like, of course they're gonna fall into each other. They have, like, a foot between them. That's not how you dance.
Yeah.
It's like an empty dance studio. Somehow, at some point, they acquire 4 brooms and a ball of some sort, and they just aggressively play hockey at Mr. X.
They are at their core.
Like,
4
it's a-
hockey players from
like
Minnesota.
it's a defense mechanism
That's
for
all
them.
they know how to do.
Did you guys notice this part directly before that? Carlos puts on his helmet and then
just
runs
runs
headfirst
into
into
the
the wall. He's trying really hard to give himself a concussion. He just
Supposed
can't
to be out of
anymore.
here.
Mr. X gives up on them, and then Gustavo comes in, and they're all sitting on the floor being sad, and he's like, "What happened?"
Well, first he banged his head into the wall a few times. Then
Yeah.
he got really dizzy.
Then he
Then he said a
said,
lot of bad words that started with X.
"That one really got to me."
And then he X-quit.
Earlier he said X done, so...
Does he just put X?
X-fuck?
Yeah, like, did he just say X fuck, or was he like, Xuck?
This is where we see, meanwhile, Katie's at the Palmwoods already running a scam on these Hollywood people. She just put up the sign that said VIP room at the pool, and then people gave her like $5
$10.
It was $10.
$10.
Oh,
She
you're
said
true.
$10 so many times. One of the
Look,
people...
numbers are not, I'm not the Logan here.
One of the people who pays $10 to sit in the VIP room is Lightning the dog.
Lightning the TV Wonder Dog.
Mrs. Knight was like kind of worried about Katie like not having friends, and then she sees Katie running the grove. She's like, well, okay, you seem fine.
Oh, also, I forgot this earlier. When Kelly came to get the boys from the pool, she said that Katie was sad about not having any friends here, so your mom let her watch Shark Cage.
Keep being at Shark Tank, but
Right,
not.
that's what it is. But in the show, she watched Shark Cage, so I'm pretty sure she was like, it's their version of Shark Tank.
Oh, that's extremely good, actually. I assumed it was just a show I didn't know about called Shark Cage. And that's where she gets the idea to run a scam, is that?
Yeah.
I think.
Very good.
Personality defining.
This is where we get part 2 of the boy band boot camp, the great look.
Oh, so good.
I wrote down, this isn't even about him, but I wrote down Gustavo Rock huge jorts. Because it reminded me of that picture of Kevin Smith wearing huge jorts.
He's Gustavo Rock. He's amazing. He's amazing.
He's wearing the huge jorts, and then he's wearing a sweatshirt that looks like a garbage bag. And he's like, okay, we have to find a great look.
And also, he is wearing so much costume jewelry, it doesn't even look real. He always has the worst chains and so many rings.
I want to nominate Gustavo for Queer Eye and just see how that would go.
Oh man, if they ever reboot the show,
I just want to
that'd be
see
fun.
the little anecdotes where they interview everyone who had nominated him. I want to see what they say about him.
Oh, this is very good.
It would be
So-
Kelly, all the boys, Freight Train, Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. X maybe. He's not there that often.
Katie, hey Nickelodeon, we got a good idea for you.
Nickelodeon, please.
This is where the marketing team comes in. They team up with the stylist. So the marketing team gets up there. They go, boys, we researched and electroshocked focus groups to discern the exact look and name that will sell millions of records. So that sucks. We already knew that this giant company wasn't super ethical or great to the environment, but that's just another one for the list.
So the first one is because Griffin wanted a tasty treat or whatever. So it's Boylicious. And there is, as mentioned before, way too much of James's body on display.
But he is wearing these shiny teal cargo pants with like a lot of zippers. that
Very good.
I'm obsessed with. Then right next to him, Kendall's wearing shirtless overalls, and it just kind of all cancels each other out.
Yeah. I don't even remember the other two were wearing because those were...
I remember
Shirtless
Carlos looked
overalls
fine.
are
Carlos
relatively incongruous with the rest of it. I feel like they just didn't want to pick another outfit, so they had Kendall.
The next one I think is my favorite. Rad White and Boy.
It tested very well with war veterans who own Buicks.
There's not really much else to say. Kendall said at best, it looks like Uncle Sam threw up on us. They're just playing vaguely patriotic music, a little piccolo or something.
I don't know what type of boy band they could have possibly been with that look.
I just want to know more about the war veterans who own Buicks who are really into this boy band, you know?
Why was that the focus group they were testing? Are those the ones who buy boy band merch?
Maybe.
Trying to break into a whole new market?
God, maybe.
So next is Danger Boy, which is just them with like a lot of eyeliner and...
It's not even good eyeliner. It's just like they did a bad job of trying to be Bucky Winter Soldier.
No, I thought they were cosplaying all of the main characters from My Immortal.
Oh my goodness. Kendall had a red streak and
Yeah.
James had a purple streak.
Yeah,
Oh no. They're just My Immortal. Oh, this is very good. Thank you.
And then it's just like that classic, hilarious TV show gag where they put people in really tight leather pants and then they can't walk and they fall over.
Because the pants are dangerously tight.
Yes.
Which is mentioned twice.
I have to say, they aren't. You can see where they bag up on their legs.
But also they're wearing big old platform boots, which I guarantee none of them have worn before. Actually,
Yeah.
wait, I'm gonna stop myself. They do play ice hockey.
I think they should be able to handle
They should
platform
have
boots, right?
balance.
They can only balance on very thin in blades of metal and not on giant boots.
Yeah.
Well, no, they live in Minnesota. They should know how to walk in boots.
All right, they have no
They
excuse.
just
They couldn't see beyond the hair in their eyes.
yeah, or they just did it on purpose because they didn't
They didn't want
to wear them.
3 of them are wearing leather vests, but then James has just got some full-on bondage straps like going down his arms.
don't
which is
love
not
that.
good. It's not good. But just give him a vest, please. But I guess the cool purple hair streak balanced it out. Maybe?
No.
There's one shot where it like shows Carlos looking like horrified at what's happening, but like it shows like the other side of his face, and I thought he looked good in that messy makeup. But then you see the other side of his face in the next shot, and he looks horrible like the rest of them. That was disappointing. So yeah, in every terrible outfit, James keeps saying, he keeps going, I think we look great.
Because
So
he just really wants to be a boyfriend.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to ruin it.
right, like I used to think he actually thinks they look good, but no, he's just really wants to believe and will do anything Gustavo says if he can be famous.
James is very nearly an extremely tragic character.
He's very tragic. We will get into this eventually, but not right now.
You know what time it is?
It's girl time.
It's a song about no matter what time of day it is.
Don't you know it's girl time?
Oh, I just woke up. What time is it?
It's girl time.
Excuse me, sir. Do you know what time it is?
It's girl time.
What if you have a sinus infection? Isn't that doctor time?
No, it's always girl time.
About that one line, he was so distressed. Logan. Gustavo is just so distressed that he doesn't know that it's always girl time. He's like about to cry.
You're supposed to be the smart one. Why did you know it's girl time?
Yeah, Logan is still clinging to that doctor dream. Surely I can wring at least one doctor time out of this. And Gustavo's like, no!
That's
Scary and aggressive.
So I'm just also wondering, we don't hear Logan talk about how he wants to be a doctor like that much in this first episode, but we do hear this line, if you have a sinus infection, isn't that doctor time? So is that like kind of the extent, is that where he is in his doctor journey, where he knows if you have a sinus infection, you should go to the doctor? Is he starting from there, trying to work up to medical school?
I mean, he probably just decided he wants to be a doctor because he's 15, 16, has his learner's permit, right?
Yeah, because they're all 16. And now we get to hear the list of like every song that Gustavo's ever gotten a platinum record.
They all have girl in the name.
Girl like you. Girl, you are my girl. Hot girl. Cold girl. Girl's my heart. Yard Scroll Christmas. I forgot that one was in there. Girl Zone Remix. And Girl, 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 which sold, I didn't write down the number, but then he yells about how good it was. Sold 10 million copies and was top of the charts for 5 weeks or something.
And also the framing of that shot is very strange to me because they zoom all the way out. Like, I felt like the wall was about to explode and that was going to be the gag because they zoomed so far away from him while he's screaming. And I'm used to them zooming really close into his face when he screams.
They need to remind us about
And
all
also,
of his records.
Because he's not standing centered in front of the records, so they centered the shot around the wall of records. He's not quite in the center, but he's not quite far over to the left enough for it to make sense, like balance-wise. So it's just a really awkwardly framed shot. I really fixated on it, and I was prepared for like explosions or things falling off the walls, and when it didn't happen, I got even more distraught about the framing of this shot. It was like 2 seconds.
Kendall's hilarious comeback is, are any of these songs from this girlenium? And then Gustavo just sort of quivers, and then it cuts to the local news, and there's a 3.1 earthquake on the Richter scale, but it didn't occur on any previously known fault line.
Which is a very good joke.
And then there's just a picture of the Rock Records facade.
I want you guys to know that I also wrote down the Girlenium quote, and right before it, I wrote in all caps, bad line.
Yeah, I know he had to do it on the fly. There's absolutely a funnier thing he could have said.
But also, 16-year-old boy.
Or
No offense
does
to
he keep
teenage boys,
saying this
but-
stuff that's so stupid? Like, is he doing it to clown on Gustavo to make Gustavo mad because he knows what he's saying is so dumb? Like, is it going like meta? Like, are we going layers down and Kendall's actually really funny? Like, I don't know. I don't know
Because
anymore.
he smirks every time he knows.
Well, that might just-
Or does he think, just on the surface level, does he think it's funny?
Yeah,
So you have to go down 2 levels before it's actually funny.
My very first note was, is Kendall Knight laughing at Gustavo Rock, or is Kendall Schmidt laughing at Stephen Kramer Glickman? Because I could not tell.
I don't know if they had to make Kendall's character like this because Kendall Schmidt could not take his role seriously and he was going to be smirking regardless.
Because he does that in music videos too, and I don't know if it's just him, like, realizing that he's doing something goofy and funny, or if it's supposed to be the character.
Because he also has those really good bloopers in the blooper episode.
Yeah.
I want to go back to when Mr. X said to Kendall, "You were great but not serious," and I'm wondering if that also applies to Kendall Schmidt. Like, he's serious enough to, like, commit to the show, but I don't think he takes it as seriously as, say, like, James does. Like, you get different vibes, especially later in the show. I feel like he would be more apt to, like, just laugh at himself.
And James definitely wants to be
Famous
musician. That's what I get from interviews too.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not bad. It's just like,
No.
it's interesting to think of that on that level.
And interesting that was Mr. X actually right, like, in our timeline? What does he know? Okay, the next scene, Boy Band Boot Camp, Part 4, the singing. So the boys are all just hanging out in the sound booth as Gustavo and Kelly gossip about them. So they're in there for like several minutes, like all set up around the microphones. They got their headphones on. And then after this, Kendall just yells, "What is this place?" Like, he's been in there for so long.
They sent the boys into the room and they're like looking around, and then after a few minutes, Gustavo and Kelly got set up in the recording space, and that's when Kendall noticed that they were in there, that he could ask that question.
Maybe. Does he not know what a recording studio is? He's a hockey player.
He's a hockey boy from Minnesota. He doesn't want to be famous.
Kelly warns Gustavo, "It's been a long day. The boys haven't had any breaks. They're getting a little punchy, so be gentle with them."
And then he
goes, "I don't care."
and she put pillows in there for the sound quality.
Which is what we do.
Yeah.
That's where I got that idea.
I'm sitting on one. And James is like, "Do you want us to nap? Because we will." But she's also left them something called fruit water. And I don't know if it was supposed
Like Kool-Aid?
to be like a juice or like a Gatorade type of situation.
Oh, it's probably Gatorade, actually.
But it comes in like the sort of bottles that you can like squeeze and they will spray. So don't know why they thought that was a good idea.
If it is Gatorade, it has to be like the watered down stuff, the G2 or whatever.
Yeah.
So Kendall playfully hits Carlos in the head with the microphone.
Because
And
it's
then-
one of those like big cushy ones
Yeah.
Muffle the sound.
that look fun to hit people in the head with.
And then
don't have
Carlos
those.
turns around, looks him in the eye, and goes, "Do it again." And Kendall goes, "Huh, not so tough without your helmet, are you?" Carlos grabs the fruit water and tries to spray Kendall, but Kendall jumps out of the way, so he hits Logan. And Logan gets like genuinely pissed off. He's like, "Knock it off!"
He's a very 16-year-old boy right there.
Yeah. He tries to spray Carlos back, but Carlos also dodges, so he hits James, and James was wearing his lucky white v-neck. So so they ruined his lucky white v-neck, and then it's like a real fight again. Everyone's just really upset, so Gustavo has to give them another talk. So he lines them all up again, like he did when they were
excited for this.
he just lines them up and then goes by them one by one to tell them how they're being terrible. So he starts with Carlos and he goes, "You can't sing," which I take offense to. I know he's talking about the character, but I'm like, he's
such a good voice.
And then he goes, "Logan, you can't sing or dance." And Logan goes, "I can backflip."
Stop it. Forever.
And then James's is my favorite. Makes eye hand, but then he like drops his head and like ducks his head and moves past him. James is so eager for feedback, but just gets totally dodged. And then Kendall is, "And worst of all, you don't even seem to want this." And I'm like, "Gustavo, you knew this coming into this. That's why you chose him. Because you didn't give a shit."
Right, and then Kendall spits out a mouthful of feathers.
Which is also in the show's intro, which we did not get in this episode.
We didn't.
Because it's the Big Time pilot.
They don't have a name yet.
And then this is where James is like, "What about me? I can sing, dance, and I want this." And
This is
Gustavo-
amazing.
He says, "You remind me a lot of Matthew McConaughey." And James is like, "Wow, awesome." And then Gustavo goes, he's really low. He's like,
I can't stand Matthew McConaughey.
Thank you for doing that. It's the same voice where he's like, "I'm amazing.
I'm amazing. I wish he did that more.
I never liked Gustavo very much. If we go back, like my first watch throughs when I was a youngin', a middle schooler. But now I'm like, he's the funniest character I've ever seen in
Where
a
is
TV
Stephen
show.
Kramer Glickman's Emmy?
I know.
Where is
I used to be
it?
so mad when I would cut to the side plot with Gustavo and Kelly, but now I'm here for it. I'm so excited for their dumb shit.
SKG Emmy 2020.
And also, Stephen Kramer Glickman can actually play piano, we learned.
Oh,
he
nice.
did? Wait, that was him playing?
Well, I mean, there's no way they could stunt it in. He was playing the note, right?
It sounds too good. I'm
I
too
know.
intimidated. So he plays them out. He basically kicks them out of the studio and plays them out with this really virtuoso piano solo.
Yeah,
Like,
he's amazing.
he also kind of sings. He's like, now that I'm through, I don't know what that next line is. It sounds like take my head, but I don't think that's it. He
Decapitate
says
me.
this, dogs are officially dead.
Dead.
Yeah.
So then it cuts to them moping by the poolside with sad guitar music playing in the background.
Courtesy of Guitar Dude.
Oh, Carlos goes,
And they
I'm
ask
so
him-
depressed. And Kendall's like, it's the music. Guitar dude. He's like, oh, sorry. And then Katie walks over to get the scoop on what happened, and Kendall says, we had some creative differences, which is exactly what Nicole Scherzinger said about Gustavo. James is mad because, like we said, he's so on board to do like whatever bullshit Gustavo wants because he wants to be rich and famous, and Kendall's just really adamant about them being themselves. And it's interesting in this scene because Logan sides with James. Kendall asks, are you siding with James right now? And then he goes, no, maybe, yes. And Logan never sides with James. Logan has always sided with Kendall. That's like the impression you get, and it kind of follows that through the show. Some shit's going down in their little group. Carlos
They
stands
are
up.
changing.
And then Carlos, true to form, stands up and says, okay, let's all calm down and think nice, happy thoughts about kittens. And then James goes, you think about kittens with your bad singing and stupid helmet.
And that's why James is the villain.
That's the most 2009 teenage boy line.
Well, this is the second time in the episode, too. Carlos has been made fun of for his helmet by his best friends.
And then they start fighting.
Right, and I feel like it definitely could be read that Carlos is a little neurodivergent and the helmet's like a comfort thing for him and everything. So it feels real harsh when and this is where Carlos physically attacks James for saying that shit. So again, they're fighting.
And then Kendall stands up and goes, I didn't want to do this. And then jumps into the fight, which is very good.
And then Katie pushes them all into the pool, which I had been waiting the entire episode for. I was like, someone's gonna fall in this pool.
Which is when you realize that the great pool at the Palmwoods is only waist deep.
I know, and
Well, when you see them floating in it, there is barely enough room for the four of them to float on those
at
rafts.
its longest point, it's only like a boy and a half long.
Yeah, Kelly lied to them.
Not including
They
James
really
is
buy
not.
into it. They never.
They love that pool.
They
Yeah.
love that pool
I would-
forever. They never turn on.
I
the
would
pool.
love that pool.
That's fair.
Oh, but when she pushes them in, they're like, "What'd you do that for?" And she goes,
Looks like you need to cool off.
immediately they're just like, yeah, she's right, I'm so sorry, guys. Like, goes
I mean,
from
they
100 to
did.
0. Yeah, I know. It worked so well. And now they're sitting around a campfire drying off.
James
and,
has wavy hair, which we never see again. It's very good.
and now it's the evening. James is talking. He's like, I'm still pretty. I could be a model or the star of a reality show. And then Carlos is like, which one? Project Idiot?
I also immediately after that wrote down I hate them, which I think is when they start singing the church song.
Well, it's prompted by Kendall goes, you know what's funny? We didn't even get a chance to sing together. And then he just starts singing his own song that he wrote.
Well, I mean, the alternative was girl time. It's not like they have a collaborative effort yet. It's either giant turd or girl time.
And they get really into it.
But what I want to say, Carlos is the first one to join in. He joins in immediately, like, in perfect harmony. I mean, it takes a second to settle in, but he's, like, on point with the harmony. Carlos, who can't sing.
Gustavo's just wrong and bad.
Because then
Yeah.
Logan starts beatboxing, and then James is just riffing over the entire
And
thing.
Someone I couldn't figure out who was just going turd, turd, turd.
Holy shit. Is it like a secret fifth person? Because they're all doing different things with their mouths.
I know, I don't know which one it was.
They added that in post. They're like, you know what this scene needs?
No,
More turd.
that was the previous Kendall.
Yeah,
That was his ghost.
Apparently, in some of the early music, if you like just take the instrumental and listen to the background vocals, apparently sometimes you can hear Kurt singing in there. So I'm like, is this the same thing where they just were unable to remove his voice from the original audio?
And they sing so well that everybody clapped.
They can. I don't get. So Jennifer stand up and give them a standing ovation.
And you notice that Tyler is wearing a tree hat, which means he invented it.
Tyler wore the first tree hat.
Is that wait? Did he make them hide from his mom?
Probably.
Yeah, probably. But like, Big Time Rush took
Tyler's
ownership of the tree hats, unless off screen they gave him a tree hat, which
no.
I
no.
don't think they came up with it yet.
Right.
Because they were in Minnesota before, and everything's snow and.
Right, but they
Yeah,
talk about how they invented tree hats. So if later down the line they say something about tree hats from Minnesota, then they gave Tyler a tree hat. But if not, Tyler invented the tree hat and they've stolen it from him.
You know what? I'm gonna go with the theory that Katie and Kendall had made them at some point.
I like that.
And then Katie, when she's hanging around the pool doing her stuff, she sees Tyler trying to hide and is like, "Hey, you can use this."
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with that.
Yes,
I like that one.
And then Camila's wearing a spacesuit.
I love her.
She's amazing. We don't get enough of her.
So Kendall's like, "Wow, actually, we're great," and then he asks Guitar Dude to play some music for him, something inspirational
So he can
to
give
go
speech.
underneath his speech. I think the culminating line is, "Are we gonna drop the puck and scramble back to the bench? Are we gonna grab that puck, pull the goalie, and rush the net big time?" And then he also says, "Opportunities like this come once in a lifetime." Again,
At one point he does say we didn't try our best, and James says, "I tried my best," and he goes,
We know James.
I know this and I love you.
Yeah, basically
No.
that's the vibe. I want a compilation of every time they said Big Time or Big Time Rush in the entire
I want
episode,
to
because
see-
it'll be at least 5 minutes long.
I wrote down drinking game every time someone says Minnesota.
Minnesota, hockey, Big Time, and then you die.
So the way he ends the speech, his big culminating thing is, "So what's the play? Dump the puck or Big Time Rush?" And then one by one, they stand up and say, "Big Time Rush." So that means a big portion of the dialogue. So Kendall ends a sentence with, "or Big Time Rush." And then the next one says, "Big Time Rush, Big Time Rush, Big Time Rush." And then Kendall also joins and says, "Big Time Rush." So for a good, 15 seconds, it's just them saying Big Time Rush 5 times in a row.
Yeah, there's
Which I
That's a-
liked a lot.
it's a marketing strategy.
Make sure you don't
Well,
forget it.
Especially if they didn't come up with the title until pretty late in.
True.
They're like, "Oh, we gotta make sure we say it in the show.
Yeah.
All right, let's put it in all right here."
I kind of wanted maybe Logan to say dump the puck. Just to see what would happen.
Dump the puck is also
Yeah,
looking
that's-
bad.
In the speech, he also did say we're brothers of the ice.
What you got?
After that, they go back to the studio, and there's a civil war. They walk up to meet each other.
It's 9 p.m. No one would still be at the studio at that hour.
I think Gustavo was probably just
But
having a time
it was
stressing.
everyone though.
Yeah,
Kelly
even the
didn't need to
stylists.
be there.
Oh, true.
The marketing team.
The marketing team really didn't. They gave nothing to this endeavor.
They don't even have a move. When Gustavo is introducing all of the boy band boot camp instructors, Mr. X does a little dance move and stylists do a little dance move, and then the marketing team doesn't have one, so they decide to do the robot. He tells him to stop, but he does it in such a genuine pleading way, it's physically hurting him. I forgot to talk about that, but it just...
The two moments where, he really seems that genuine is there, and then also when he's like, "No, it's girl time."
I don't know, I just didn't know why anyone was there that late, but it might not be that late because it's January. And as Kendall says when he's listing reasons why he wants to Big Time Rush, it's -8 in Minnesota right now, and I'm in love with this pool.
Yeah.
So, they do the face-off, the Civil War-esque, as you said, and Kendall's like, "Okay, we'll do it your way."
I don't know. He says that they're gonna agree, they're not gonna ask any questions, and then Gustavo says, "Great, girl time." Except that.
We don't want to say girl time. And then he goes, "Oh, okay, let's hear the Dog's Better song title." And then, you know what? Can we say it in unison?
Maybe.
Big time. Rush. Why did they say it like that?
Okay, they don't have this song written yet, do
No.
they?
They're like, "This is the song title, and you're gonna write the song."
And then they practice, and they get better. They're learning and
Well-
growing. Another montage.
Rush.
I'd like to say really quick before that, so it's Gustavo grudgingly admits, he's like, okay, that's a good name. He goes, we're going to be working all night because Friday is 2 days away and we are in a big time rush.
Oh, God.
So he's really into it immediately.
Is that when he's standing really close to Kendall and then they both agree that they are standing too close
That
to
was
each
earlier.
other?
I don't remember which time, but we forgot to talk about it.
Gustavo goes, okay, big time rush from the top. They sing the O's, but like...
Real bad.
They're really out of
It's
tune, and
awful.
Gustavo makes this like meh motion. But immediately after that, when Kendall launches into the first verse, and the audio immediately switches to the official recorded version, like very produced.
Yeah.
And it's so
They
jarring.
just had
And then-
a bad...
Yeah. I think that was to show, like, oh, they have some growing to do.
But yeah, like you said, it's a nice montage. They're like doing the dancing class, and they're hanging out by the pool.
And they learn
then-
so much.
Yeah, they're trying out outfits with the stylist team. But as soon as the second verse starts, that's when it skips to them in the recording studio performing for Griffin. So it's this like really big like recording studio room so they can run around and dance.
And do backflip, front flip.
It's not really like a synchronized dance like you'd expect from a boy band.
They're just
Because they're a
vibing.
new kind of boy band.
Look, I saw them in concert. That's not how they dance.
My theory is that they realize that they can't dance
dance, yeah.
in unison because they're not good enough for it yet. If you're trying to do things in unison, then you can really tell when you mess it up. But if they're all just kind of doing their own thing, then it's harder to tell if one of them messes it up.
So that's why they have them all like run around with their arms out.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like spinning.
Very
and-
distracting.
'cause then Logan does a backflip over here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not even centered. Again, just like off in the corner. They don't have to center things.
Haleigh, I want to hear your hot takes about their outfits.
Oh, it's not that hot. I did pause it so I could look very closely. What I've got so far is that James is dressed like a tech startup.
What's Kendall wearing in this one? Can you remind me?
All black. Yeah, a
'Cause
vest.
two of them are wearing vests.
Right,
Him
right.
and Carlos.
A vest and a t-shirt, and he's just dressed as an emo skater. Carlos is dressed like a Pokemon trainer. And Logan's just dressed like the devil.
Yeah,
True.
I would imagine. I've never seen Lucifer, but I imagine that's kind of what his fashion.
Yeah, anytime you watch anything and there's like this character who's supposed to be like evil or devilish or like the devil incarnate, he's wearing a black suit with a red shirt and a black tie. And that's
a
what
skinny
Logan's
black
wearing.
tie.
Yeah, he's just dressed like the devil. I don't know why they did that to him.
Well, early in the episode, he did go devil. And
He's
like,
talking about Gustavo!
Yeah,
I
he called
know,
him
but-
Satan. He didn't want anyone to suspect.
Yeah, they finish performing. Griffin says he likes them and looks forward to hearing the demos. And then he says, I have to go. My pants are closed. And then he exits.
Did he ever get Gustavo any warm pants?
We don't know.
Is that-
We didn't have to see Gustavo change on screen, and for that I am grateful.
Yeah,
Watching
was that-
Griffin change
hold
on
on.
screen was too much.
For his huge jorts, the
And then at the end, Gustavo says again that Carlos can't sing, which offended me again.
And then he says that Logan still can't dance, but apparently Logan can sing now.
And he still can't stand James.
And Kendall's like, we'll work on it.
And then he says, okay, now you can celebrate. And then they are really happy. We get the, again to like bookend the episode, because like that's where it starts and ends. And that's when the screen goes black and it says, and the musical journey begins, ...
In just a horrible font.
Real bad
Yeah.
font. But very time appropriate.
Yeah, I guess.
When you're ready, I have some things to share about the unaired pilot.
Very excited about the unaired pilot.
Okay, so the story is Kendall was originally turned down for the part of Kendall. That was not the character's name at the time.
Right.
They had cast Kurt Hansen. I guess like the chemistry wasn't really there, so they did this whole pilot again, unaired.
Where did you find it?
I only found some clips, unfortunately.
exactly
I
2
know, I
clips.
looked so hard online. I guess Logan told the producer, like, hey, you should audition this Kendall guy again. They had some good vibes. And then they asked the other ones whether they would pick Kendall or Kurt, and I guess they picked Kendall. And that's when they gave Kurt the part of Dax Zevon, who shows up in a few episodes, and I very much enjoy his role in that. Apparently, they added Kendall 2 weeks before the episode was supposed to air.
Wow.
So maybe that explains some things.
Yeah.
Reshoots they would have had to do.
I found this also in the Big Time Rush wiki. It said BTR fact. The original 4 names of the guys were Jesse, Conus, Brian, and Donovan.
Who's Conan?
Logan.
Conus!
I can't stop thinking
my
about it.
goodness.
Spell that!
Jonas still can't sing.
How do you
It's spelled like the Jonas Brothers, but with a K.
Okay, yeah,
don't
is
like
that
that.
supposed to be a way more obvious parody than the Jennifers?
Yeah, Kendall was supposed to be Donovan. Okay, so this is one of my favorite little facts. In the pilot episode with Kurt, the guys, they weren't hockey players, they were skaters, and they lived in Wisconsin. And Carlos didn't wear a helmet. It also didn't have
Did he
the
wear
turds
like
on.
knee pads or wrist guards or something?
Not that I know of, but
We
I
are
hope so.
4 skaters from Wisconsin.
That's nothing.
So, and then there's also a comment on this thread from December 14th, 2012 by BTR James Logan 1. It says, I don't think Big Time Rush would be picked up for a second season if Kurt was in it. He's like 45, and they're only like 19 or 20 there. So, first some context. Kurt was born in 1987. The others were born in either 1989 or 1990. So he was at most 3 years older than them. And this person's like, he's like 40. So, okay, so there's 3 clips available of this unaired pilot on YouTube. The first one is the audition scene. So James gets out there, he sings the same song but in a much lower key, which is why I think maybe your theory about the giant turd song also carries over to James singing Smokey Robinson, where he can physically never sing it in the same key twice. They let him go for like way longer too, so he gets through like a whole verse. Mrs. Magikowski was like exactly the same, so I guess she nailed it immediately.
Good
And
for
like,
her.
we don't need to change anything. As Kurt is yelling at Gustavo, as Kendall did, he's like, yeah, we know your real name's Gus Beasley. Do you guys know that? So his name's Gus Beasley, and he changed his name to Gustavo Rock.
That's incredible.
I was just under the impression that Rock was his real last name, so he's like,
Same.
well, it's music geology.
Instead of Girl to My Heart, he yells, Boy Crush was a hit 7 years ago. So in this universe, I'm guessing all of his songs had the word boy in it instead of girl.
wild.
So maybe they changed it because it sounded too gay? I don't really know.
Boy time.
And then Kurt goes, Boy Crush? How did that giant turd go again?
No!
So I think what happened there is that they're like, wow, that giant turd line was great and we need more of it, and we need the boys to say giant turd like a lot more because that was really good. Because the turd song again was not in this pilot. And if you're wondering how Boy Crush went, it's basically the exact same as Girl to My Heart.
Oh, I wanted it to be Giant Turd, but instead of Giant Turd, it was Boy Crush.
No,
Like-
unfortunately.
Like, oh, you're such a crush. Oh, yeah, a boy crush.
When Kurt gets grabbed by the security guards and they go to drag him out, none of the others jump in to help him.
Oh,
or
rip.
he just lets himself get dragged out, so I guess the friendship bond wasn't as wild.
That's why they had to recast.
Yeah. Katie was the older sister, and they walk into her room to go look at her, like, CDs so they can make fun of Gustavo, and she goes, Go away, turbo dorks.
That's very good, actually.
Is it...
The other scene they do is the parking lot scene. First note is that Logan's hair is like really, really, really bad. It's more like James's, but worse. So Kurt isn't wearing any sort of uniform. So I don't think he works at the grocery store. I don't think any of them work there. I'm guessing they just hang out and skate in the grocery store parking lot. They make Gustavo meet them there, even though they could have left because none of them are working. Gustavo does say 4 dogs from Wisconsin. Again, Gustavo was exactly the same character because he also nailed it immediately. And they're like, yeah, you're perfect. We don't need to change anything. When Kurt says he doesn't want to go to LA, he goes, I want to hang out with you creeps and skate and stuff.
That's not what a creep is.
He doesn't sound very sure of himself. He's like, and skate and stuff. Instead of giant turd producer, he says mega jerk producer.
Oh, you're such a jerk.
Yeah, no,
Mega
that's so
jerk.
disappointing.
Yeah.
And then they also had the ending scene. So instead of the song Big Time Rush, they sing This Is Our Someday, which actually doesn't like come up until the season finale of season 1. They put James in this really terrible sweater, and from the front it looks like a sweater vest, and he has like a tie underneath it, but on the back it's all like one solid color. He looked really bad. The other bad outfit thing was that Mr. X was in the background. He was just wearing regular jeans and a black button-up, and he had no gold headband or sunglasses. He was just a guy.
No.
That's awful. I'm so glad they fixed that.
Right? And then when Gustavo's telling them after, he gives them the good news, and then he's, making fun of them. So he goes, we can't hide our dance flaws forever, Logan. Which I really enjoyed a lot. And then during the end credits, Famous plays. Kurt does the rap instead of Logan. I really wish they had more dialogue in these scenes, headphones so I could hear him say Kogan with his mouth.
Kogus.
Conus.
Conus.
Did I say Kogan?
Yes. See, it's Brian, Jesse, Donovan,
Conus.
Conus.
Also, looping back around real quick, because I forgot to mention this earlier, Savage Steve Holland did direct 2 episodes of Jonas, and also he wrote and directed Better Off Dead. My mom loved this movie, so I've watched it a few times. Shout out, Mom, I know you're listening.
Like the 90s one? The 80s one?
Yeah. Anyway, I knew that was important, and obviously Scott Fellows does, they both do a lot of Nickelodeon stuff, so it makes sense that they're involved in this.
Mm-hmm.
I've meant to look up when Ned's Declassified ended.
It was before this. Carlos was on As Declassified.
Okay.
Was he?
Yeah, that was his first role.
Oh.
Okay, one of the episodes that he directed of Jonas, the plot was when rumors swirl that Jonas is breaking up, Kevin, Joe, and Nick go on a radio show to let their fans know the band is still together, which foreshadowing.
Oh no.
Oh no.
So somebody in like a focus group or something was like, Griffin's not funny. Make Griffin funny. And the way that they injected some humor into this man's character was pants.
Making him take off his pants during a business meeting.
Where he stole a desk. I think if you steal someone's desk and get away with it, the power dynamics in place mean you can do whatever you want with pants.
I mean, the whole character of Griffin is created for him to just have power
Yes.
and to exercise that power over Gustavo.
Yes.
That's rough.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally, I think,
Does
his purpose every time he
Gustavo
shows up.
ever, like, kill him? Or pants?
He never talks about hot pants again.
Of course
Warm
not.
pants, not
Warm
hot
pants.
pants.
Sorry, a hot pants is a whole different thing.
You're thinking of hot towel.
I'm thinking of the time that I went to Old Navy with my mom and she tried on pants and the guy that was working in the dressing room said, "Oh, those pants are HOTT hot."
No.
And she bought the pants! And so then...
That worked?
I mean, she was gonna buy it anyway, and he said that. And so then every time she wore them, my aunt and I were like, are those your hot pants? So that's what I'm thinking of, to be clear.
Have we done it?
Well, this has been Girl Time Rush.
Or whatever it's called. I don't know what it's called.
Thank you for joining us.
Okay.
We have to go. Our pants are cold. Bad show.
Girl